Welcome to episode 7 of the Fantasy Show with Aman Carney.
And Evan Garber.
And today we are just going to react to week 1 of the NFL, how that concerns fantasy. I will start slowly making a fantasy show for soccer because I realize that there's so much going on in respect to both sports that it's hard to fit into one episode. So be on the lookout for that. I'll announce on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. But we're gonna react to week 1 in fantasy and update you guys on this league because I've said it I feel like twice now where this is honestly I can confidently say by far we mainly play fantasy basketball and football together. Out of any league, this is the most competitive league at least I've been a part of. What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like most teams are pretty equal, and even the teams that are like toward the bottom, they have the pieces that they can use to move up in the standings.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just get straight into it. I'll go straight to your team. We see you lost against Team Legault. Obviously, this guy's a LeBron James fan, but when we look at your team and see the scores right here, Lamar Jackson a point less than projected, McCaffrey 15.7. Like Baker Mayfield figured out the offense in the second half of the game, so maybe a full game, especially against the New York Giants. And I understand my Panthers lost to the Browns. The Giants are an easier team to beat, hopefully. But McCaffrey's not going to get 15 points on points. He's going to get more targets in the passing game. Elijah Mitchell getting injured. Debo Samuel not hitting his projected. CD Lamb not hitting his projected. Dalton Schultz did. And Fournette 17.2, even though 15.7 was still good, didn't hit his projected. The Chargers defense overperformed 12 points and they were projected 5.7, and then Evan McPherson's the kicker. How do you assess? And then here's the bench on your screen right now. Evan, how do you assess your week 1 in fantasy?
Yeah, I honestly feel like I just got a little bit unlucky. I think I definitely could have and should have won my matchup, but you have Elijah Mitchell getting injured, which is gonna hurt me, and then you also got Dak Prescott getting injured, and the whole Cowboys offense was just a mess.
Hmm.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb only at 4.9 fantasy points. That's nothing like him. And then Schultz, he did all right, but and now as you probably saw earlier, there's some major changes to my team that I
Oh
did
yeah,
make.
hold on. Now we go. I'll click on this week. Like you see week 1. Pause the video if you want to. I'll scroll up and down. That's his team. And then we move on to this week, and that is his team. Actually, it might be better to go to league recent activity so we can fully break down this blockbuster trade right here. So, Evan, pretty much just walk us through this deal.
Yeah, so as you can see, I got Trey Lance, Najee Harris, Russell Wilson, and Dawson Knox,
And
but I
Juju.
and Juju, sorry, and traded away a massive package of Lamar Jackson, Leonard Fournette, Pat Firemouth, Brandon Cooks, and D Hop. Now, my thought process going into this trade was I definitely want a running back, another running back. I had Aaron Jones at first, upgraded him to Leonard Fournette with you, and then I wasn't so keen on Leonard Fournette, and I knew that I had the pieces to get a superstar, and I got that in Najee Harris. And you might think that I traded a lot. I kind of did. I traded away Cooks, Hopkins, who are both really good wide receivers, and Lamar, who was one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy. But I knew that I had to trade away value to get this, and I definitely got not. I'm really happy that I got Najee Harris, and I think Juju will be a really, really good weapon too.
Yeah, and especially without the Chiefs' offense is one. I mean, I completely get the trade. You're definitely risking your quarterback position. I'm not saying Russell Wilson's a bad fantasy QB. He's still a good, great fantasy quarterback. But I mean, Lamar Jackson was your quarterback. Najee Harris, he's questionable. I mean, there's some risk with Najee Harris, but obviously a massive upgrade for your running back position because now you have McCaffrey, Najee Harris. That's a dangerous running back duo on your fantasy team. And obviously, you might drop Trey Lance. We'll see what happens there and stuff like that. But Leonard Fournette is still a reliable running back regardless. Lamar Jackson, we know who he is in fantasy. And talking to the person who was on the other end of this, he believes in DeAndre Hopkins once he returns. And Team Aurora, he lost to Peter McFeeder, who dropped like a crazy amount of points. Has Mahomes. To be honest, he might have the best team, but his running back core is generally weaker than most. And so we go to his team. We can see that for week 1, he had Mahomes who popped off, Swift, and then Justin Jefferson, Michael Pittman, Travis Kelce. Nearly everyone exploded. And yes, you see that right. 187.5 points is what he got. And so this week he did swap Montgomery for Josh Jacobs. Sort of an upgrade at the running back position. Obviously his running backs aren't as good, but he has Jalen Hurts. It's massive trade bait. He's trying to get Dalvin Cook, but with how competitive the league is, the way trades work nowadays is even though it might help your team, you don't want to help a competitor because literally all 8 people in this league, including us too, are very competitive. Usually you'd get the 3 to 4 people or something not active and stuff like that, but this time, Team Aurora 0-1. If he is 3-3 or 4-2 by the time DeAndre Hopkins comes back, he's got a legit shot at the playoffs. So Team Aurora, it's not necessarily about winning right now. It's more, I feel like the trade for him is more of a long-term play. And for you, it was to shore up your running back duo. That's where I stand on that trade. I was honestly okay with it because I understand it from both sides. And we go over to my team, 141.92 to 107.28. Team Tippett, he did auto draft, but his team is getting better. Once he does trades, it will be amazing because he's got Eckler and Cook and Javonte Williams, which is why either Cook or Javonte, he's more willing to trade Cook than Eckler. But we'll see what happens because he can trade his running back. He desperately needs a receiver. But if he gets Jalen Hurts, that's a great fantasy quarterback. So once all the trades start happening, and I feel like there's at least a few trades per week the way this league has gone so far. A few trades per week. And real quick before we move on to my team, you see Evans last in the league. Once we get to the middle of the season, all these teams will be shuffled. It's not like Peter McFeeder might not be number 1. I might not be number 2. It's going to change, I feel like, almost every week. There's going to be a couple trades every week, the way fantasy is going this year. But go on to my team. Haven't really made any trades because, like I said, teams don't want to help you even though you get fair trade packages. I've tried to trade for Javonte. The person said he'd wait and nearly traded Dalvin Cook before the trade was vetoed. I tried to trade for James Conner, and an hour later, the guy said, I'm waiting another week. I don't feel like trading James Conner. Proceeds to trade Najee Harris. And then, like I said, Dalvin Cook might be on the move. Javonte Williams might be on the move. The person who had Josh Jacobs, who I tried to trade Gabriel Davis for, or Mike Williams for, before the season started, he's like, I'm not making trades for this season. And, he he likes Brees Hall. I don't know why. He's likely gonna make him start because projections say he's gonna be like a 4 seed or a 3 seed, and I'm gonna miss the playoffs, and Evan's gonna be the 3 seed. But I mean, Evan and Team Aurora's trade that shook up the projections massively, massively. Especially if Brees Hall starts for that person's team, we will see. But I mean, I'm trying to upgrade Aaron Jones. Like I should say, actually, let me see if I can find it in recent activity. Evan talked them through the trade we made at the beginning of the season. Yeah, at the
Yeah,
beginning of the season. Right
yeah.
here.
So it was Darnell Mooney and Leonard Fournette for Aaron Jones and AJ Brown. Now, I think it's a pretty good trade for both sides. Obviously, for me, it turned into Najee Harris, which I can't complain about. But even then, even without the Najee Harris decision, I did not want Aaron Jones at all. I knew that he was going to split a ton with AJ Dillon, and I knew that Aaron Jones has not been consistent at all in fantasy, like ever in his career. So I knew I had to get an upgrade. It took AJ Brown, which is not the best thing probably, but I have faith in Darnell Mooney that he can be decent, and Leonard Fournette, I feel like he's way more consistent than Aaron Jones, which is why I pulled the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why you did the trade. I mean, for me, I had receivers. I was gonna do Mooney, Davis, or Williams. I wanted to do Mooney because, from my perspective, I also know I'm trying to get rid of Aaron Jones too, because like you said, he's always been inconsistent, especially with AJ Dillon. Like one week, Aaron Jones would get 30 points. So I'm eyeing Javonte Williams. So if DJ Moore, I mean, with AJ Brown now, I can trade DJ Moore and get the Javonte Williams is who I'm eyeing because if both of them catch fire, DJ Moore and Aaron Jones or DJ Moore and Antonio Gibson. But I'm happy we made the trade because honestly, I wasn't even thinking AJ Brown until you said the high star, the person I'm willing to trade away is AJ Brown, and I was giving Leonard Fournette obviously a more reliable running back than Aaron Jones, so I was like, if it's worth the risk, I want AJ Brown too, and I'll give you Darnell Mooney, and I think it worked out for both sides. Obviously, considering what you got now, and then the fact that I have AJ Brown, who absolutely exploded. And I was on Twitter and asked like a Sports Illustrated person if I should start AJ Brown or Antonio Gibson. Gibson was on my bench with 20 points. I was gonna start him over Aaron Jones initially, but I don't know why. I just had more faith in Aaron Jones because as you can see, if I left AJ Brown on the bench, that was 25 and a half points. And then I mean, my depth did super well, other than Mike Williams, who will get more targets with Keenan Allen out. Gabriel Davis overperformed. Goddard pretty much hit his projected, like less. Stafford, I mean, you're not allowed two quarterbacks. And then Chase Edmonds at his projected. Miles Sanders 6 points over. And then you got Antonio Gibson. I mean, I really love my running back depth, but my two running backs I do not like. I like Joe Mixon, just not Aaron Jones. So, I mean, that's the trade pack. There's so many trade packages I could make with this team to upgrade my running back situation because every team has pretty good depth at receiver, but Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown, DJ Moore, Mike Williams, Gabriel Davis, that might be the best receiver core or whatever you say, receiver team in this fantasy league. And then I have a bunch of great to good to decent running backs. And I like my running back depth. I just don't like my running back too because I feel like Joe Mixon I should have went with Stephon Diggs and then still gotten Fournette and Jones. I would have been fine with because if that happened, this would have been an amazing team. I elected to go Mixon over Diggs because I did think running backs are barely more valuable than receivers. So I mean, I'm not complaining. I still love AJ Brown, but I mean, if Antonio Gibson keeps this up, I'm going to be so happy because Brian Robinson still is recovering, so we don't know how Gibson will do when he comes back. I don't think it's going to be a massive drop off, but now I'm starting Gibson at flex and Aaron Jones at running back, and I mean I'm still honestly debating because Mike Williams is there. Who knows how he'll do without Keenan Allen? And so I'm electing to do three running backs instead of two running backs and then a receiver at flex. Could be a risk, but if Antonio Gibson continues the streak, this is going to be the steal of the draft because I got him in the 11th round. So, I mean, there's that. So, Evan, what team in this league do you, other than yours, mine, and probably Daniel's, what team could make that big jump, do you think?
I still believe it's Kyle. We've seen that he's been active in trade talks at least, more than Team Brees Hall and more than Team Legoat, who are probably the better teams that right now. But Kyle is Team Tippett's going to be active, and I feel like he will pull off the right trade, and he will be very 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 competitive when he does pull off that trade.
Yeah, and this is Peter McFeeder's plan. Like, I was thinking of going Hurts for the trade value, and if I had known Hurts would potentially give me Dalvin Cook, then if I got Stephon Diggs instead of Joe Mixon and had Cook and Fournette or Cook and Jones, I would have been more than okay with that. So I feel like looking at how the league is shaping out to be now, I do regret some of the drafting decisions I made, but I'm still super happy with this team. And honestly, not many people in the league may agree with my statement. Actually, well, wait. So, how many wins out of 14 do you think your team could get?
Oof. Um, It's tough. I mean, obviously, I want to say 13, but at this
Yeah,
point,
13 and
but
1.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, week 9, I'm already getting destroyed. I have like basically my whole team out, so that's another loss. But and I think my wide receiver core is just too up in the air right now that I don't think I can get up to the max amount of wins. So I'm just gonna say with the safe 9.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, CD Lamb makes that whole situation weird. Weird. And without giving too much strategy, if you're comfortable, just name a couple receivers you are either eyeing on the waivers or trying to. If you're thinking of trading for a receiver, like pretty much what is your thought on your receiver situation right now?
Honestly, right now I'm not really eyeing anyone because I believe that some of the guys on my bench like Bateman and Lazard and Mooney and Curtis Samuel too, who I picked up today, I feel like they will break out a little bit more, and I'm hoping to either use them as trade bait or put them a wide receiver if they end up being really really good.
Mm. Yeah, you got Daryl Henderson too, which I was thinking of getting, but I mean that was the lowest on the waiver order. I pretty much figured that someone would pick him up, and um, someone would pick him up, and even if I was first, I don't know about Daryl Henderson getting 16 points because if Cam Akers takes more accountability, even though the loss wasn't on him, and I think it's unfair McVay called him out like that. I think Akers will try to play more, and so I don't know about the 16 points Daryl Henderson's projected, but honestly, we'll see a lot of fantasy is predictions and your feeling on how players will perform. I mean, you thought it was crazy. Some people in the league thought it was crazy. The best I've done in fantasy, I feel like this could potentially be one of my best fantasy teams once I get once I pretty much upgrade Aaron Jones, and that could be Javonte Williams, that could be Dalvin Cook. You never know because my receiver depth is amazing. Antonio Gibson is there. Feel like I have a great trade package for a Javonte Williams. Maybe not necessarily a Dalvin Cook, but I've I have an enticing trade package potentially for James Conner. I've been saying Javonte Williams. I just feel like if I upgrade the running back position, maybe 13-1 is a stretch. It wouldn't surprise me if I somehow did that, but honestly, I feel like I could go like 11-3, 10-4, that type of stuff. But it's I understand it's gonna be hard in this competitive league. I do feel like most teams are gonna go like 9-5, 8-8, and stuff like that because of how competitive it is. And I wouldn't be surprised if like 8-7s are the first seed or 8-7s are the second seed. Not 8-7, my bad. 8-6 or 7-7 make the playoffs because with how competitive these leagues are, I don't think you'll see a 13-1 or 12-2. So I honestly believe I can get 10 or 11 teams. I think I can get 10 or 11 wins just like this, but I feel like I'll sure it up if I upgrade my running back position because Aaron Jones is not and will never be reliable, but I'm still starting him because I'm still holding on to that small part of faith. And out of the teams in the league, do you think will underperform this upcoming week or teams that you're not feeling too high on?
I mean, honestly, if I had to choose a team that is gonna underperform this week, I'd make it happen to say Daniel's team, just because of how high his projection is. He's at
Hmm.
134.8. I just don't think that it's gonna happen again, where his whole team breaks out. Josh Jacobs, he's not gonna do that well. I don't really like him as a fantasy running back. And I think that Swift will slow down a little bit. Jefferson, he definitely will not put up 34 like he did before. And yeah, I mean, Kelsey, he'll still be good. I think him himself might just raise that bar up high because it's
Yeah,
gonna be a shootout tomorrow night, on Thursday night at least. But
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
I definitely agree with that. The situation, Brees Hall's team projected third because of his David Montgomery trade. I mean, you see his bench, you see his starters. He needs an upgrade at receiver. I guess Saquon Barkley's fine. I almost got him as an RB2 during the draft, but like you see him starting Brees Hall. It is a troll. I feel like if he does something with Brees Hall, you see, based on his projected, Brees Hall is a waiver wire player, not an RB2. But since his team is Brees Hall will be starting. So I feel like once he becomes serious about that, then a lot of things can happen to his team. A lot of positive things can happen to his team. But I'm not ruling anything out because like he got 139.56. That was 2 points less than me. So I mean 141.92. That's a really good week in fantasy. A lot of teams actually had really good weeks. Like 128, 123. Those were losing scores in this league, which is honestly surprising. But with the amount of teams that drafted well, with the amount of times they're trying to pull off trades, it's just such a competitive league. But we will see what happens. We're obviously going to update you every single Thursday. But without further ado, make sure to take part on our Instagram polls because later on we are going to make videos where Instagram decides the NFL season. Instagram was 8-8 during week 1. And so if you want to take part in that, follow us on Instagram or the other social media platforms we are on. They are on the screen right now. But have a great week. We'll see you for tomorrow.